Okay, so to continue on with the head and set, if you look here, what you're going to see is you see inside here, you see little bits of pitting on the surface, okay? And on the face of the prong here, you can see stamping lines. So what we want to do is we want all of that to be high polished. We don't want any of that to show, okay? So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. Um, the way that I tend to recommend is using a whatchamacallit, a knife edge or a square edge, right? You're gonna use a red wheel. In this case, we need to reshape it a little bit, so give me a moment. You can take a file and then you can hold it up like this on there, a used file, not a good one, right? And shape it into your knife edge, right? So let's do that real quick. All right. And so now we have our knife edge, all right? The reason we want that is because we're gonna go in here on this angle, and we're just gonna gently pull and drag up, brushing lightly, just like we were using a brush, right? An artist's brush. And then do the other side with the other side of the angle. Okay. And what we're looking for is a nice satin finish. And then we're gonna tilt slightly, all right? And we're gonna come down the face of this. We're gonna come down the face of the prong all the way to where the V meets here at the bottom, right? This is a good one to use the square edge on, because you can come straight on and come down. What you don't want to do is create ripples, okay? You don't want to create ripples on the face of the prong, and you don't want to create ripples inside the V of the prong. So let's just work our way around this real quick, all right? And again, because we're doing an in shank, we can do this now that we've put it into the ring, right? If this were a semi-mount, a peg head, we would have had to clean this, just hold it with some pliers and clean it before we assemble it, all right? That way you can get everywhere you need to go. And the red wheel is really good for taking care of the majority of that rough surface. And you'll notice that I'm not raising the RPMs way up, right? We don't have to do that. You can keep it at a slow rate. There's very few times that you're gonna really rev up the RPMs on your flex shaft, right? You just don't need it. So again, one side to do the inside, and that gets done, and then one side to do the other side, and we are almost done. We're going to do these here, and we're going to do these here. Be careful you don't wind up wrapping it around. You don't want that to happen, okay? So let's take a look. And you can see now that everything has a matte finish, but there's no more stamping lines, there's no more pitting, none of that stuff, okay? That's all been removed. So what we want to do at this point, before we put the stone in there, before we cut the seats, before we do any of that work, we want to high polish the whole thing, all right? So we're just going to take our bristle brush, and we're going to high polish the whole thing. And the reason that we want to polish this now is because once the stone is in here, there are going to be spots where we can't quite get to. That's why we pre-polish it, okay? And on this inside one, you come down on either side of the shank to get that. So you'll notice it's slightly angled, right? So you can go to either side of the shank to get this inside edge on these. And again, down the face and across the V. You only need to put a little bit of rouge on there, but if you see that it's not polishing up quickly when you're doing this, just dip, boop, stick it in the rouge a little bit more. And again, that rouge is called Fabuluster. There's another one that's called Zam. Both are excellent finishing rouges. Okay, so now we've got a high polish on the head. All right. Now we're going to do a little bit on the inside. We're going to go back and do this again afterwards, but we're going to start with a nice little pre-finish on this. So just roll it in and across the prongs. Try not to let the shaft of your tool bit hit it and chatter and make marks. The reason that we spend so much time polishing in advance and polishing the head is because what's going to happen is if you have a clear stone, it's going to act like a magnifying glass. So whenever you put that stone in there, whatever is underneath for a metal surface, it's going to be reflected out. And so if you have a really brilliant clear stone and it's all scratched up underneath the prongs here, then it's going to make the stone look cloudy. It's going to kill some of that brilliance. So we want to make sure that it's all highly, highly polished. So then on the next one, we're going to go over this real brief. We're going to cut the seats for this. We're going to do a final inside polish, and then we're going to go over how to tighten down the stone properly and make sure that it is correct in all directions. Okay? So there we go. See? Nice high polish. This is what we want. All right, should be like a mirror finish. Give that a whirl.